We sit on this, there's an Ian Golden quote that I love, is that he basically says, we sit at a moment where everybody thinks that the world is being reinvented. And everybody throughout history has always believed that. The difference is, this time, it's true. We are at an amazing point in time because we can do so much amazing creative stuff. And the thing that we need to remember is that how much creative stuff we can do is dependent on the practices and the tools we have. So what I'd like to do is start with a little walk through the history of innovation practices, which I'll include as project management, agile, et cetera, because what we find is every time we get a new challenge, we come up with a new practice. And that makes it possible for us to take this new challenge, this new opportunity, and do something with it. Let's start 40 years ago. We were trying to figure out how do we do big, complex innovations. We're going to build bridges. We're going to design enterprise software systems. And so we began to formalize the practices of, how do you project manage? And this is where we came up with the classic waterfall model. You do all your analysis, you get things locked down, you move forward, and you could get certifications, PMP certifications in doing this. And we should remember, it was actually a good idea. If you're going to build a dam or you're going to build a bridge, you don't want to get halfway through and say, oops, 6 inches longer. That would be a really bad thing. So this is a really useful model for doing the kinds of things we were doing in the middle of the 20th century. Now, roughly around the 1970s, we found that there were opportunities to optimize the systems that we had. So we had the opportunity to optimize. So Deming, others in the total quality management movement, coming out of Toyota, the automotive industry, they found ways to incrementally improve systems through lean processes. And that became a way to do innovation that moved us small steps forward and made everything better. And that worked to really advance the practice of innovation at the last part of the century. Then we come to 2000. And all of a sudden, there's big new opportunities out there. You can suddenly, instead of simply saying, I'm going to build an entire bridge or I'm going to build a dam, I can build a digital product. I can build a website. I can build a mobile app. And so I can take a particular task, snatch it out, and put new technology in place. And the thing about that is, there was a real advantage here to moving fast. So all of a sudden, we're in a position now where it's not really about incrementally improving the status quo or building a big dam. It's about figuring out, how am I going to become the guy or the woman who actually innovates this new product and gets it and claims that spot? And so we end up with all the tools of product management. You end up basically saying user-centered design, focus on a need, understand the individual involved, come up with a specific solution. And then you can do that through a really exciting, energized innovation process, hackathons, workshops, et cetera. The whole proliferation of 3M Post-it notes as an innovation tool. And so now we've got yet a new version of how do we manage innovation. And Agile fits beautifully into this model. So we went from, back when we were designing dams, et cetera, to having everything as top-down control. And now we're looking at, we want to be adaptive, we want to learn, we want to do all of those things that are sort of Agile best practices. And that allowed us to create the products like digital apps that allowed us to fill those gaps. So we've seen there were 3 big challenges. Each big challenge resulted in a new generation of opportunities and practices. What's happening today? Well, what's happening today is technologies are coming at us like it's a fire hose. And we're talking about AI, but let's be honest, it's not just AI. It's IoT, it's robotics, it's self-driving cars, it's biotech. There's so many new technologies that any field, any aspect of any field can be changed by a new technology. And so what does that environment create? Instead of simply saying, I'm going to fill a gap, now I have the opportunity to disrupt entire systems. And this is one of my favorite quotes out of Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. The fourth industrial revolution isn't about making small changes. It's about driving deep disruption. And here's the kicker. It's for every industry, no matter what you're working with. And this means we need a set of innovation practices that are designed to allow us to thrive as disruptors or disruptees. I'm not sure if that's a word, but that's the idea. Here, what we're really talking about is we're going to create not a product, but an entirely new ecosystem, an entirely new system for delivering value. An example of this was Uber. So Uber didn't simply say, how do I add a mobile app to a taxi business? What Uber did is they say, we're going to come up with a new car ownership model. We're going to come up with a new scheduling and a pricing model. We're going to come up with a new capital model. And all of these things are going to be built together to allow us to create an ecosystem that no matter how well you do as a taxi cab driver, you can't compete. The system is fundamentally different, and that creates fundamental advantage. So now we've got brand new systems that can be created. What does that look like? Let's take an example using AI. So a product-based version of innovation with AI might be this situation where you want to improve the waiting room experience of people in a healthcare environment. So you're going to come up with a mobile app or an app to AI-driven scheduling of appointments. And that could look just like we traditionally deliver tech apps. So you've got a team, they work on it, they focus on that problem, and they make office visits better. And so everybody's feeling a little bit better. They don't have to spend so much time in the office. Now, let's imagine what we could do with powerful unlocking tech and the way we might create an entirely different ecosystem that makes that office visit irrelevant and obsolete. So let's start. We're going to do the obvious thing. We're going to augment or replace the doctor with AI-driven health recommendations. Okay, so now the AI is going to do all that AI kind of stuff and say, you should do this or whatever. So we've got basic AI health recommendations. That's actually just a substitution. But the new ecosystem could go further, and we could tie that AI model into all the knowledge about medical treatments, practices, et cetera, that's continually being updated. Ooh, now we're beginning to move out of the range where a doctor could possibly compete. There's no way that a doctor is going to know all the information that's out there, but that AI model could draw on that. All right, so now we're getting beyond the doctor. We could go even further, though. We could say that AI model could understand your particular attributes and look at the cohort of people like you. So, big old dude for me or something like that. And you could look at all the impacts that certain activities, treatments, et cetera, are having on that cohort. Now we've got even a bigger view. We could tie that into what's actually happening with your body. So we could look at your Fitbit and all the other body measurements. We could look at your house to understand, what's happening inside your local house environment. And now we've got a set of AI recommendations powered by a whole ecosystem of different types of knowledge and sources. Now that's all well and good. We could just say, oh, that's just going to make for a better health recommendation. But we could also couple that to taking real-time action. So now here we can basically say, oh, we just looked at you. We don't like that. We're going to adjust your insulin pump. We're going to send a drone with emergency medicine to you. We're going to arrange for some sort of medical treatment. And we can do that all autonomously. Now let's ask, which medical system do you feel like you're going to get the better care in? The one that requires you to go to a limitedly informed doctor for a short visit, or one that is enmeshed in all this information and ability to act? A lot of people are going to be energized by this new ecosystem. Now, I'm not ignorant about all the challenges that go with this. You can say HIPAA. There's lots of stuff about this, but it does illustrate how powerful a new ecosystem could be and how irrelevant the problems of the old ecosystem are. So we're no longer concerned about whether or not you've improved the scheduling of your appointments. This is an entirely new ecosystem for delivering that value. And so this is the kind of innovation that suddenly is open to us. And it requires us to think differently about what the practices are going to be. Now, all of you got a book. We liked the book. Jenny and I wrote the book about this exact type of challenge, is how do you innovate entire ecosystems? Now, to understand what this means and how different it is from a product-focused version of innovation, you need to look at the thing you're innovating as not being one piece, but all the different complex parts brought together. So this can be people, this can be organizations, this can be technology, this can be resources. This is what Uber did when they reimagined the taxi cab industry. It's what Airbnb did when they reimagined the hotel industry. But it's in all sorts of different areas. I'm working right now with organizations that are reimagining how you get healthcare information out to low-resource communities in Africa, how you deal with climate change in Brazil. These complex problems need powerful solutions. And so when you talk about the idea of bringing together lots of different Lego blocks, people, organizations, and tech, you suddenly have the ability to do much more. And this is what's exciting about AI, is that it unlocks this level of innovation. Now, let's say we've decided as an organization, your organization has decided my old ecosystem is going to be made obsolete. There's a new AI or some other technology-enabled new ecosystem that's going to be the future. And I'm not going to be the old taxi cab company. I'm going to move into this bold new future. What do I have to do? Well, I have to take my imagination of the old house and move it into this new vision of what I want. So that's the first step, is actually embracing the bigger new vision, not some incremental change to your world, but really a powerful, big shift that represents, an entirely new way of looking at it. Now, here's the problem. Change management for this level of shift looks something like this. You take a bulldozer and you crush everything and everyone until you've reduced it all to rubble, then you shovel it away, and then you put in something new. As you can imagine, this frequently creates pushback and tension. So what do we do if we want to achieve those big, powerful changes, those big visions, but we recognize that this just isn't an acceptable thing that we want to do with our organization. The answer is that we actually take some inspiration from software developers. So software developers ran into this challenge years ago. They realized that more and more they were developing balls of mud, like stuff that was all tangled together, and the only way that you could make change to it was basically tear it out and put something new in. What they responded to with that was realizing if I make everything into modular Lego blocks, if I can make things so that they can be unhooked, put together, assembled in new ways, then I can make those bigger changes more effectively and with less trauma. And that's really where we need to start going with our organizations. We need to start thinking about our organization as it is today as a Lego block, and the organizations we want to go to as something that we're going to assemble in new ways. Now, just to be clear, the Lego blocks we're talking about don't just have to be our organization. One of the things that's exciting about this is as soon as you see this possibility, you can start grabbing Lego blocks from anywhere. I worked with an insurance organization that was seeking to break free of the limits of its existing marketplace. Well, it couldn't do that just on its own. But they could take and draw on an organization in Florida. They could draw on a bank out of New York. They could draw on a service company that was actually based in Europe. And so when they started reassembling this new business that they imagined, they used the Lego blocks that were strong and good for their own organization, but they also started drawing in Lego blocks from outside their organization. And here's what was really exciting. As soon as they wanted to go into yet another market, they drew on different Lego blocks. So they could continually, just like a kid playing with Legos. Today I'm doing a spaceship. Tomorrow I'm going to do a boat. And you just keep going. Now, why now for this particular type of innovation? This is not a small leap. In the same way that product development, agile product development, was not a small leap from where we were before with waterfall methodologies, this is not a small leap in the application of agile. But it's important. All right, so why now? Well, the answer is because the disruptions are coming at us in a deeper and faster way. Big Bang disruption a number of years ago highlighted this idea of a shark fin opportunity, where the long period of time you used to have to harvest and just incrementally improve things is now being cut down, and so you have less and less time to actually make the changes, get the value out of the thing that you invent. Even worse, those opportunities are deeper and more disruptive than they were before. So it's not about like you have a shorter period of time to take advantage of your feature. You have a shorter period of time to reimagine your entire organization. Now, the good news and the bad news about this, hence the eek and the excitement at the same time, is that we have even more Legos. AI is the best example of this because it seems like every day there's some fundamentally new AI tool available. But it's not just AI. It's IoT, it's the drones, it's everything coming together. So this kind of obsolescence squeeze isn't happening once. It's not a one-time thing that you need to survive and then you're back to the way things were. The new world basically looks more like the diagram on the right. So you have to reimagine yourself, make bold, deep, disruptive change, and then do it again, and then do it again. And this is to go to the point that we've heard earlier. You need the capability in the organization to do this kind of bold, deep reimagining and to make it part of what the organization does. If you're viewing this as change management, you're missing the point. This isn't about managing change. It's about being an organization whose core capability is deep imaginative change. And AI and all the other technologies that are coming along with it are making this mandatory now, because it only takes one of those iterations to be failed on, and you're gone. You're no longer on the playing field. So what this basically means is our future organizations are going to be about being able to take repeated, ambitious journeys through really big challenges. I find that audacious, exciting, dynamic. I mean, I wake up in the morning and yeah, I'm kind of like terrified, like the whole world could go off, and fall into a ditch. But nothing, there's been no time in history that possibilities and opportunities are greater than today. And I don't want to sound like a techno-optimist, like AI is going to solve all our problems. I don't believe that at all. I do believe that smart people working with a huge tool set and with practices that are designed to take advantage of all of these Lego blocks can do things we never, ever imagined. And so, yeah, let's do this. All right, I'm done.